Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Luigi's Mansion 3 for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we somehow basically fully completed every aspect in terms of the forms within Floor 10, taking place in Tomb Suites, by not only trying to able to investigate through the desert, and on top of that, we also enter in the actual pyramid, while solving the forms of 3 puzzle challenges, including my least favorite one, which appears to be the weighing challenges and all that stuff, that you have to measure out the forms of those little objects on that specific weighing scales or anything else like that in order to able to progress. And on top of all that stuff though, we also did manage to take down the next boss, and also we somehow collected every single gems, and finally, most notably though, we somehow captured the next boo. So yeah, everything else checks out there basically. So yeah, today for this video is that we are about to be heading over into the next floor, which takes place in Twisted Suites in floor 11. So as far as I'm aware, this place is filled to the brim with a lot of magical tricks here and there, such as for instance though, if we dive into this particular room right here, we do realize there's going to be a gem in here somewhere, which as far as I'm aware, we did somehow manage to able to accidentally bring out some swords out of the actual specific barrel, at least as far as I'm aware of. So, and essentially speaking of, those swords turn into some sort of like a magical sword. So, yeah, to put it simply though, is that we need to spin this thing around, and then as a result, there's the first gem right there. And as you can definitely tell, the gem shape is almost like a shape like a die, or in some cases a dice block, if you will. So, I guess that makes it pretty obvious, considering for the fact that, you know, this place is filled to the brim with a lot of magical tricks and a lot of magical contraptions here and there. And it's also worth noting for too, there's not one, but 2 golden goops at the same placement. So, as you can definitely tell, yeah, this is where the point where the fact that, unfortunately though, for this particular run, I don't think it's possible for me to capture every single one of those golden goop ghosts, because like I said before, if you manage to let one god away in time, or in some cases if you don't capture it in time, you're probably not going to get the insane amount of the amount of gold. So because of this though, yeah, one just got away, so as a result, yeah, there goes my perfect run. So I suppose it really doesn't matter, because even then though, after all, we've already had the 40,000 gold at this point in time, but hopefully we'll gather even more money if we do manage to able to actually try to find some even more golden goop ghosts. So don't you guys worry about that, especially considering for the fact that at this point in time that we've only just got about approximately technically 6 floors left in terms of the forms of getting every single gems, or should I say 7 floors as far as I'm aware, just because, well, we definitely need to able to hit back into floor 4 for, presumably for the final time, to potentially try to get ourselves the final gem as a result. But that's not going to be until specifically until tomorrow, that is. So, but anywho, speaking of which though, is about the fact that for those of you probably wondering, before we get into more details about this though, as you can see, we've gathered every single suit of cards, which not only are you able to get even more money bills, but on top of that, the next gem. So, nicely done. So, in fact, I think this could be possible for the fact that we can able to actually gather every single gems all in one particular run as well. So, I'm sure there might be a possibility if that's going to be the case. So, as you can tell, we somehow accidentally got blown up by this very unexpected bomb. And by the way, with that particular toilet right there, that'll be for later, because even then, this place usually does manage to able to bring in all kinds of the forms of those golden goop ghosts if you do manage to able to come across into not only 1 but 2 at the same time, because even then, oh, there's a golden mice right there, so good thing I did manage to able to use the strobe bulb for it. So just in case, not only we can able to restore our health, but in addition to that, trying to get even more money. So yeah, that seems very top-notch, all things considered. So, yeah, let's take a peek through, rather, the forms of that particular cracked hole, which, as you can definitely tell, there's not 1, not 2, but 3 female magician ghosts. So, as you can definitely tell, they almost become like a look-alike, like almost like a relation between the three of these ghosts. So yeah, we definitely need to try to figure this out until we're able to actually meet up with them again, since whenever we first got into the forms of Floor 11 to begin with. So but anyway, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course is the 15th of October today, in some cases in 2025 today, and it looks like we've only got one more day to go until Pokemon Legends EA for both Switch 1 and Switch 2 is going to be releasing. So I'm sure enough though, a lot of people out there obviously attempt to buy the Switch 2 version because, you know, the Switch 2 version is much more powerful compared to the forms of how it does it for Switch 1. So as you can definitely tell, because the forms are 60 frames per second, best resolution ever. Sorry for a little bit of a tongue twist in the end, folks, but I do apologize for that. So, either way, because you can definitely tell for the fact that it may look like we're just about to be getting some couple of more Switch 2 games later on. And to make things a little bit more obvious than ever, is that by that time until the next couple of weeks, then next up it will be right after the forms of Pokemon Legends EA, next up it will be Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. So, although I was expecting to try to able to pre-order that game at some point, but I might have to wait on that until specifically by the end of the month, in October, when the time is right. And I really don't know if I can able to try to pre-order Dragon Ball Sparking Zero for the time being, just because it is actually a very tough choice for me to go for either the Switch 1 version or the Switch 2 version. Thus, not only that though, I'm trying to save up for the sake of the funds of trying to get the yet another Switch 2 game exclusive, which appears to be Kirby Air Riders, but that's not going to be specifically until next month. And afterwards though, there's going to be Metroid Prime 4 Beyond for either Switch 1 or Switch 2. So because of that, really tough choices on my part in regards to the forms of between both Switch 1 or Switch 2, but I do know for one thing is about the fact that still it's the most unfortunate thing ever when it comes to Dragon Ball Sparking Zero for Switch 2 version specifically, when it comes to physical version, that obviously though the stupid game key card was a thing, so
Uh-oh. Wow! Ow! Oh! Ow.
now, for this particular room that we're entering into, this room does remind me like a similar tone as in the first Luigi's Mansion, where at one point we're able to actually come across into one of those optional ghosts in that game, usually taking place in the fourth area, and as a result, as you can definitely tell, the room itself is basically going to upside down. Like, for instance, though, the lamp fan was actually on the ground as opposed to on the ceiling. So yeah, it does remind me of like a similar vibes as in the first Luigi's Mansion game. So anyway, so once we activate the timer right here, as you can tell, we do need to able to reveal an invisible door in order to able to progress, because as you can definitely tell, the door on the right is currently locked. So we need to find a key somehow. So because of that, yeah, let's head into the bathroom and able to actually try to get even more money, gold, and not only that though, we can able to actually try to bring out the piranha fish or anything else like that, and hopefully we can able to try to destroy it, so just in case it doesn't harm us in any shape or form. And as far as I'm aware, there's another treasure chest right there that we can able to expect to this time bring out Luigi out for one noticeable reason, because if you let Luigi get sucked in, obviously there's your chance to able to actually try to use the the Dark Light device to able to reveal the actual true identity, and on top of that, trying to bring out the pink variations of those little spirit balls, and that way they'll be good to go. So yeah, easy and simple. So, and logically though, not only gives us some more coins, but also, most importantly, the key itself. So, how's that for that? So, although I was originally trying to able to actually bring out the actual review scores so far in terms of the forms of Pokemon Legends EA for either Switch 1 or Switch 2 versions, but let's just say for that particular discussion can wait during at some point until tomorrow if there's anything else that's going to be possible. So anyway though, And also, as far as I'm aware, before you're able to actually dive into the next floor after this, something tells me about the fact that there's going to be a complete halt when it comes to progression. Well, then again though, we'll talk more about that if we somehow manage to continue exploring for the forms of not only floor 11, but eventually at some point, things get a little bit more interesting in regards to the forms of the actual, the actual plot story progression. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and check things out around in this particular vending machine, which obviously once again brings us even more gold, so that'll be pretty, substantial, at least as far as grinding money is concerned, so... And also, I get the feeling there might be something in here, which if we do manage to use the suction shot, and able to actually bring us a yet another stroll ball thing, which I'm pretty sure it will activate the timer again. But here's the catch though, if you go and try to separate not only Luigi, but also Luigi as well, this way, if you try to use the stroll bulb right on that specific spot, this way you can able to not only try to get not only more money occasionally, but also another gem, but with the forms of the green gem. So, yeah, good thing I did manage to point things out, and in fact, no matter what though, we just literally got about 3 gems to go. Now, some people seem to say for the fact that getting 100%ing everything in Luigi's Mansion 3 might not be worth it, compared to the forms of how it does it on not only the first game, but as well as the second game respectively, because all it gets is just bragging rights in regards to the forms of the rewards you do get if you do manage to not only capture every single boost in the game, but in addition to that though, getting every single gems, and most importantly, trying to get every single achievement obtained. So as a result, yeah, again, I'll try to go after all these achievements on my spare own time, rather than just trying to do the entire walkthrough like this, because I'm pretty sure, similar to the forms of how it does it in Luigi's Mansion 2, HD specifically on Nintendo Switch, obviously though for the fact that no matter what though, it's about the fact that I'm still usually trying to hunt down for some more ghosts only exclusive into Scarescraper mode, because for the most part, whenever I do manage to fully 100% everything in the actual story mode, or in some cases Dark Moon Quest mode in Luigi's Mansion 2 on the Switch version specifically, I did manage to able to gather every single 3-star rankings in every single missions, and on top of all that stuff though, I also did manage to capture every single boost, and also, I think, trying to complete the game once, and that's about it basically, when it comes to getting one of the 3 EGAD medals to represent the actual full completionist. So I can imagine I might as well do the same thing for the sake of the forms of this game. So yeah, that's as far as I can try to say about this, I suppose. So anyway, so as you can see, we now ended up in a shower room of any kind, or for that matter, yet another bathroom more like. So, and if we once again try to utilize the Dark Light device to bring more spirit balls, but here's the thing, most of these spirit balls are actually going to be on that particular sewer thing right there, which that's where Luigi comes in. But again, if you don't obtain all those spirit balls in time, obviously though, it'll just go back into this original placement of some kind. And also, the golden piranha fish was actually there, so good thing we did manage to spot it that, so just in case we get able to grab even more gold. Now, I'm still generally surprised we're doing really well in regards to the forms of not to spend on not only more golden bones, but in addition to the forms of more boo finders and gem finder cartridges, because to me, they're kind of useless to me though, as long as you know the actual gem locations inside out. But as far as boos are concerned, well, I can always rely on the forms of the HD Rumble feature for not only Joy-Cons, but in addition to the Switch Pro controller. So, I can imagine if you're trying to able to play through Luigi's Mansion 3 on the Switch 2, then obviously though you might able to play through the game with the GameCube controller, or anything else like that. But usually most of the time though, it's about the fact that trying to get these retro styled controllers when it comes to wireless versions on Nintendo Switch / Nintendo Switch 2 just feels a bit kind of difficult to come by these days, which I'm not exactly sure why. Why do I explain about that? Because mind you though, we haven't got any new GameCube games will be added for the likes of Nintendo Switch 2 for quite some time, since Chibi Robo for the GameCube. So as a result though, again, I was expecting to see not only Super Mario Sunshine to be added, but also, most importantly, Luigi's Mansion 1, so that way it gets the entire trilogy being playable on specifically on Nintendo Switch 2, because not on Switch 1, because you know, Switch 1 only has like a fewer selections when it comes to gaming catalogs in regards to the forms of Nintendo Classics application, so, but I digress. Also, did you guys know, it's been, you know, 9 years ago since when Paper Mario Color Splash did somehow first came out on the Wii U. I mean, surely that time itself is went flying by. I mean, by that time until next year, then obviously though, Paper Mario Color Splash will eventually become 10 years old until next year, which I think that was the only Paper Mario game I sort of not completed it yet, especially noticeable because, well, I'm usually stuck on one of those levels throughout, specifically though with that particular quiz stage thingy right there, so I suppose no matter what though, that's when specific cards needs to be required, or in some cases grinding for some more coins is going to be a little bit more of a, well, importance to us or anything else like that. So anyway, so there's a piggy bank right there, and if we try to shoot it in any direction, like this direction right there, not only will we get ourselves some more coins, but also the next gem. So as you can definitely tell, that for the most part, we're actually not doing too shabby with this particular floor, despite the fact that, on the other hand, this is actually my first time I'm actually going to be experiencing floor 11, which I found is very surprising.
Ah. Whoa. Oh. No.
Well then, it seems that particular key has somehow turned into a golden rabbit. And to put it simply though, that's what Luigi and Luigi's separation cooperative thing decides to come in, because as you can definitely tell, if you do manage to use the Dark Light device, then it should able to actually bring back into its original state by simply obtaining the regular key. So, yeah, pretty easy, self-explanatory, especially because I can imagine if you're trying to play for this particular scene right there with just Luigi on its own, that way the golden rabbits will easily decide able to actually run away very easily. So I can imagine that, but usually it's a good thing I've already bring out Luigi from earlier. So anyway, so that pretty much does it for that particular room right there. And let's go ahead and try to open up the next door on the right. But before we do that, I just want to make sure I just need to check on something before we continue our progress. Intensity forms within floor 11 as a result. So it seems to be more specifically that we'll try to figure something this out in a later time. Because I get the feeling they might able to actually bring in 2 more golden goop ghosts, I'm pretty sure. So because of that, yeah, again, we'll be back for that eventually. So anyway, it is also reassuring about this series about the fact that yes indeed, the Halloween tour for Mario Kart Tour has officially begun again. So no matter what though, I think this could be a perfect opportunity for me to not only try to get the next unlockable costume character by the forms of, well, Witch Peach, but it's also about the fact that maybe this could be also be possible for getting myself the actual pink Mii racing suit, if possible. I mean, relatively speaking though, I still can't guarantee to able to get myself the gold Mii racing suit at this point, because, you know, it's gonna be virtually gonna be impossible when it comes to obtaining that Mii racing suit, because it requires the amount of grinding with the actual tier system, which as you can definitely tell, it's going to be too much to handle. So because of that, well, it's a good thing for the fact that, like I said before, since on Monday, that obviously though, I refuse to go back on experiencing online play in Mario Kart Tour ever again, not only in regular race mode, but in addition to battle mode as well, because, you know, I'm simply done with that mode. So because of that way, I don't have to necessarily try to worry about the stupid awkward controls again when it comes to the forms of online play. And on top of all that stuff though, I don't have to necessarily try to worry about the forms of the amount of rage I somehow keep on getting every time whenever I did somehow manage to get wrecked on online play in Mario Kart Tour. I'm just gonna say that right about now. Also, right here, another gem. So yeah, looking good so far. So I believe the final gem is not going to be that far from it either. So yeah, we can easily guarantee to able to gather every single gems in this run. So yeah, pretty cool if I do say so for myself. And I believe this could be also applies with any other floors coming up. To be more specifically though, for the fact that, like I said before, we'll eventually go back into floor 4 if we do manage to able to require a specific upgrade or a modification to our Poltergust G-00 if there's anything else possible. So, anyway, that pretty much does it for this room right here. Oh yeah, and talking of which though, I somehow managed to activate my Gold Pass subscription once again for Mario Kart Tour, because kind of thinking about it, it's been a very long while since I actually did manage to access the Gold Pass subscription in that game, because obviously though, I just want to get the actual other unlockables done and over with, in regards to the forms of trying to get more drivers, assuming of course if Nintendo decides to shut down the entirety of the entire service when it comes to Mario Kart Tour, but that's not going to be until, I don't know if it's going to be likely next year, or 2027, or even 2029, for that matter, but time will definitely tell though, because I'm sure enough though, the game is still going to be continued supporting when it comes to the amount of playtimes, and you get the idea for this point. So, anyway, there's the 6th and the final gem in floor 11, so, yeah, piece of cake. Too easy. So, and to put it simply though, in order to do this final gem to obtain, by the way, is that as you can tell, Luigi did somehow manage to get a big top hat on his head, and to do that, in order able to get off of Luigi with the actual hat, is by simply trying to utilize the burst technique, and then as you can definitely tell, we've inserted that particular hat onto one of those statues, and in that way it actually creates a staircase that pretty much leads us to the final gem. So yeah, pretty top notch, all things considered, of knowing the actual gem locations inside out. So, but anyway, oh jeez, we got this thing again. So, oh dang it, I did not realize I lost some bit of health, but that's okay, because either way we can just simply once again just do this, and obviously just use the dark light device. So, I believe, thankfully though, this particular floor, floor 11, wasn't nearly as long compared to the forms of how it does it for floor 10 in my opinion. Just because in floor 10 though, we have to go for a lot of puzzle challenges before we're able to actually continue our progress. Assuming of course that thankfully I don't have to necessarily try to worry about the actual weighing scales kind of scenarios like this again. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and try to suck up some more coins on the actual bookshelves and all that jazz, so we can able to continue building up our ultimate goal in regards to the forms of trying to reach this certain rank by the end of the game, by the way. So, but yeah, for the most part though, that's as far as I can try to talk about in terms of the forms of today's discussion. I mean, sure enough though, it's about the fact that hopefully by that time until later on, I can definitely go ahead and try out Mario and Wario in the near future, thanks to the forms of the Nintendo Switch Online subscription services that I already added since about a couple of days back. So, yeah, I suppose no matter what though, there's nothing else we can do around here, besides the fact that I can tell, for the fact that we have to go into another room to, presumably speaking though, we can able to actually proceed into the 3 magician ghosts that we can able to try to take them on, and relatively speaking, I'll get into more details about the forms of their names, until whenever we're able to hopefully try to face off against them. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and try to get these little spirit balls into our poltergeist, and able to actually get even more gold thanks to the forms of that particular treasure chest. So, still, it's actually going pretty smoothly, so as you can definitely tell, yeah, this floor is a piece of cake in my book, so...
Huh?
Okay then, I was not expecting they did somehow manage to steal Luigi's cap earlier on, but then it turns out for the fact that they do not like the sense of smell of Luigi's cap, so I digress. So yeah, let's go ahead and try to suck up some more magical suits clothing or anything else like that to bring up some more money bills and all that stuff. So I just want to make sure if I don't miss any of those particular secrets around here. So yeah, I think we are essentially done in here. I mean, there might be still some more things to able to encounter with, but either way. So as you can definitely tell, for the fact that those 3 magician ghosts usually just somehow got away. So yeah, we need to go after them somehow. So by simply, we need to able to go on to the previous room that we've already been into at first glance. So yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and check on the actual sink or the actual valve or anything else like that. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else in here for the time. So let's just go ahead and try to leave the room. And, oh, what the heck? We're somehow traversing ourselves into a different room somehow? Oh, wait a second. I believe before you're able to actually encounter those 3 magician ladies as ghosts, obviously though we need to take care of even more ghosts for the time being. So, usually relatively speaking though, with the majority of the time, goops and also occasional hammers and also occasional oozer, and maybe at one point that purple ghost that I keep on forgetting his name, because again, it has been quite a while since actually I've last played this for sure. But regardless of such though, well, as a matter of fact though, it's about the fact I'm pretty concerned for the fact that until roughly next month, for the fact that one of those films in particular, which appears to be The Good Dinosaur, is expected to become 10 years old, which I honestly forgot about, especially considering for the fact that out of all the actual Pixar films I did recently check out on my life cycle, well, I'm afraid to tell you, The Good Dinosaur is not that great anymore. I mean, we'll talk more about that if the actual film decides to celebrate its 10th anniversary specifically until next month, if possible. There's also reassuring about this too, is that it's not going to be that long either until when there's going to be a 10th anniversary of Star Wars The Force Awakens. So as you can definitely tell, there's a lot of celebrations coming up, in regards to the films of not only in November this year, but in addition to December as well, before we move on to the next year, which is of course 2026. So anyway, so let's go and explore into this little familiar room that we've already explored into earlier, but except now for the fact that we have to deal with even more goop ghosts, and you pretty much get the drill for this point. So but anyway, now, as far as I'm usually concerned with, in regards to the forms of what's to come, to be more specifically though, by the end of the month, and eventually at some point for the sake of the forms of in any other aspects in particular, oh, those dice blocks didn't do anything. I keep on thinking about the forms at the very beginning of the floor, where basically though, there was actually that very peculiar dice block you can able to actually get more money bills if you managed able to land a number 6. So yeah, we'll try to figure something this out once we completely done everything in this floor from now on, because as you can tell, if you try to able to actually entering different rooms, they get like a little bit mishy-mashy when it comes to more specifically trying to traverse ourselves into these different rooms like this. So yeah, for instance though, this particular fan right there is actually now going to be more threatening than the forms of how it does it as the forms of one of those weird whatever obstacles you're going to be running into. So yeah, because for the most part though, we're about to be able to try to deal with the forms of some more oozers around here. So but yeah, again, I got nothing else to say. I mean, hopefully though, for what I've double checked and during the forms within the character selection screen in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds earlier ago, I did manage to able to encounter for the fact that not only we can able to expect to see Joker, or in some cases, yeah, Joker as it stands, that Joker should be releasing by that time during in this month in October, and eventually one of the characters from Yakuza series that is going to be available by that time until November, which also say applies to the forms of not only SpongeBob but also Patrick as well. So yeah, we'll definitely hear more about that and during a later time, but for now on though, for the fact that it may look like for the time being though, like I said before, we just literally got about one more day left until Pokemon Legends EA is releasing, despite, you know, more spoilers has been turned up so many times in online social media, and at this point in time, it's about the fact that it's just no matter what though, that some Pokemon fans now need to be able to try to avoid a lot of spoilers for the time being before the actual game itself launches. So, but either way, let's go ahead and try to keep on doing this and try to damage the actual specific furnitures as a result in addition to that. So yeah, let's just give this a shot in regards to the phones that dice block if we somehow land a 6, which unfortunately though we didn't do it. So, but luckily though you can able to actually do it the amount of times, assuming if you're trying to get it right. So, but anyway, And also, as far as I'm aware, I haven't heard anything for the sake of the Forms of Stuart or Cap King 34 for quite some time after the events of his conclusion Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Returns, specifically on the Switch version, on the HD version, because, relatively speaking, I was about the fact I don't think it's going to be possible for him to able to actually go through 200% playthrough of the game, similar to the forms of how it does it for me and Tails, by the way. So no matter what, though, we can able to expect to realize that we can't tackle through any other aspects, aside from the main playthroughs of anything else at some sort of capacity. But regardless of everything else, though, that's as far as we can able to say about this, I suppose. So, but anyways, though, so I guess we somehow land a glorious number 6. So, yeah, that's very awesome in my book, especially because we somehow got even more money bills out of that. So, yeah, that's all nicely done and everything. So, I suppose no matter what, though, I don't think it's going to be possible for us to able to actually just try to get the money again if you manage to land a 6 again. So, yeah, it's only happened for one time. And also, I have no idea why I somehow ended up in the lift earlier, but that's mainly because I just want to make sure for the fact that the elevator/lift does not count as the forms of that particular shuffling rooms kind of scenario. So, yeah, things should be all good by then. So, oh jeez, we ended up in this familiar room from the likes of before the key turns into a golden rabbit. And no matter what, though, speaking of Hammer Ghost, there he is right there. Smash the actual glass into smithereens, and no matter what, though, we have no choice but to take him down. So, but, yeah, let's talk about the forms of those 3 magician, names they somehow managed able to bring us in this floor, which appears to be, not only, Nikiki, but also, Lindsay, and, Jimmy, I think is what it says anyway. So no matter what, though, again, we'll talk more about those 3 magician, ladies until whenever we come across into them again, and something tells me we will come across into the next boss fight, which even then, yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting whenever we do manage to encounter it. So, anyway, so I'm pretty sure we are basically done around here for this particular room, that is. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and try to suck up some more junk, and by doing so, we get even more money bills. So how about that? And if we go in here, then obviously we now ended up in a stage, so yeah, it may look like for the fact that we're about to be come across into even more of these guys, basically. So, yeah, you're pretty much used to it by now, especially considering for the fact that, of course, much like the previous 2 games, that we're still able to actually try to face off against with the exact same types of ghosts all over again. What I found was a little bit weird, though, is about the fact that, unlike the first game, that you can able to actually utilize elementals and all that stuff with all that, you know, with water, fire, and ice, in order to able to actually give a huge advantage when it comes to dealing with those elemental ghosts. Like, for example, though, with the forms of the fire elemental ghosts, then you have to simply try to able to use the water element in order to able to dissolve the fire. And then meanwhile, when it comes to the forms of ice, you have to utilize the fire. And finally, most notably though, if I can recall correctly, if you try to utilize with the, I would say the fire element, you have to use water. Although it has been a very long while since I actually have last played Luigi's Mansion for either on the GameCube version specifically. Because mind you though, I've already 100% everything in terms of Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, but not so much the 3DS version because still, no matter what though, my hand cramps decides to become a lot more common in regards to the forms of trying to play through the 3DS version of Luigi's Mansion 1 for a long period of time. Especially, I still haven't exactly fully completed the Hidden Mansion mode on the 3DS version, but that's mainly because I do not know where the Speedy Spirits new locations there are. And on top of that, same plus with the forms of the Gold Mices as well, because I was expecting to try to get myself my glorious S rank on that particular run. But unfortunately though, that's not the case, mind you, because to put it simply though, it's been an awfully long time since I actually have last played Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS, because, again, I just prefer playing Luigi's Mansion with the actual controller, because, my goodness, the grip is so comfortable, at least in my opinion, so, but anyway, there's nothing else around here, so let's continue things on here.
Oh, ow. Oh, oh. Oh.
Okay, so here we go, on to the next boss fight. Or should I say, we're about to be faced off against with not one, but 3 ghosts, all in one particular boss fight. And those ghosts are named, as I said earlier, Nikki, and Lindsay, and Grinley, which I think that's what their names are. So to put it simply though, it's like a memory kind of game where it comes to more specifically how this boss fight plays out. So to put it simply though, is about the fact that this also requires a lot of concentration, because for the most part, the first phase is not that big of a deal, because you can just simply choose one of these hats in particular. If you pull one of them out, then you have to avoid one of their attacks, and then once you dodge that, it's your chance to able to use a straw bulb and try to suck up one of the 3 members of the magician ghosts, such as right here. So yeah, that's one done, and now we need to move on to 2 remaining left. So, and as far as I'm aware, that despite the fact that those 3 ghosts do have 100 HP each, so making a grand total of 300 HP all in total. So because of that, again, once again, I apologize for that particular unexpected tongue twisting in the end, folks, but that's mainly because, like I said before, it's been quite a while since I actually have last played this for sure. So, but anyway, oh yeah, I completely forgot to mention to you guys about something, and that's what appears to be for the fact that recently though, that SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide demo has recently came out for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X/S, and possibly PC Steam as well, and maybe possibly the Switch 2 version as well. I mean, mind you though, I haven't really followed up that much in regards to the forms of modern SpongeBob series these days, because mind you, I prefer the classic era. Plus, it's mainly because the classic era is so legendary when it comes to not only, you know, character development, and on top of that, the sense of humor, and on top of that, memes, especially noticeable with, like, my leg, or anything else like that. And to top of all that stuff though, how fun and energetic to able to look back on the classic era when it comes to SpongeBob franchise. At least that's just in my opinion anyway, so... But I digress. And it's also worth knowing for too is about the fact that Dragon Ball FighterZ is going to be releasing, or reveals, the yet another DLC character, which appears to be Goku Super Saiyan 4 Daima version. So yeah, that seems pretty interesting to say the least. So anyway, by the way, if you manage to bring out the wrong answer, likely for instance though, I accidentally pull out the bomb, that way, it did took me 20 HP damage. So, this means about the fact that the cycle has to reset. So this means about the fact that the third and the final phase is going to be pretty tricky. Because not only for the fact that we now need to concentrate on one thing this time, as opposed to, you know, trying to focusing on one proper target. But on top of that, lights decides to come out, or lights goes off. So this means that trying to concentrate might be felt a bit tricky to deal with. So, especially noticeable, you have to deal with a lot of emphasis on timing too. But, if you do manage to able to get the hang of this, though, this boss is not too bad, all things considered, as long as you would pay attention to the forms of the actual real. The ghost was inside in the actual one of these hats, so, relatively speaking, it's almost like the Luigi's Mansion version of Shell game, basically, from Mario Party 1, so... And there goes all 3 of those magicians, so... And that way, we should able to reveal ourselves the next glorious elevator button, which appears to be elevator button number 12. So, yeah, I can't believe we're actually getting very close up to this point, folks.
Oh, oh yeah. Ta-da!
So yeah, we've got button number 12 now, and this also means every single room is now going back into its normal state. So this means about the fact that we can now able to actually go back into the elevator with a total breeze, or in some cases with a total ease, or anything else like that, or relative ease, whatever you want to call it. So, but yeah, and it's also worth knowing for too, as a matter of fact though, in regards to the forms of what's been happening so far, in terms of the forms of, according to the forms of, well, the actual movie development as far as I'm aware, it may look like Mortal Kombat 3 movie is in the works, despite the fact that the second film has been delayed and during at some point until next year in 2026. So, yeah, that seems a little bit of an odd timing in regards to the films they're trying to bring out. The information about the films of the third entry of the Mortal Kombat movie is going to be on its way. Usually I'm referring to as the newest films in particular, because despite the fact I've already noticed that the first film in 1995 was kind of successful, but despite the fact that the critics doesn't seem to be overly keen on the film as much, but nothing compares to the films of how it does and how atrocious Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie was actually handles in, because even then, that it's basically like, I do know for certain for one thing, when it comes to the opening credit sequence, it plays very, very similar to the first film, except now with the CG effect with the film's new title called Annihilation. So because of that, yeah, no wonder why the second film back then is actually pretty horrible, so... But I digress. So, I can assure you there might be a washing machine in here somewhere, so if we do manage to bring out the dark light device, and we should able to reveal the glorious washing machine by simply trying to get every single spirit balls inside, and then once we've done so, if I could get that, there we go, and then we should able to use the suction shot right there to open up the washing machine to bring up not only tons of piranha fishes, but in addition to that, another golden goop ghost. So, dang it, he somehow got away in time. Okay, it's even bad enough. Those little piranha fishes are always in my way in regards to the forms of trying to able to catch that particular golden goop ghost. So, I mean, regardless of such though, as long as you were able to keep on smacking or trying to slam those particular piranha fishes in time, I think the best advice I can probably give you guys about any of this is that if you pay close attention to the forms of his HP for a second, like for instance though, I somehow managed able to deal with a final blow within just approximately likely 4 slams at the time. Basically though, I need to let the HP go down for about 79 HP or less, so that way you can able to actually deliberately try to finish him off in a total breeze. So yeah, that's why I classified that. So, yeah, before you're able to actually decide to move on to the next floor, which takes place in floor number 12, well, as I promised you guys, we'll try to sort things out with the forms of this particular spotlight thing on the stage, which, in order able to try to activate this thing right here, well, it's nothing to do with this particular positioning right there. I get the gut feeling for the fact that we have to utilize with that spinning table on the middle, which, yeah, believe me or not, well, this is obviously what we're supposed to do. So yeah, we have to spin that table around once it's all gathered with that spotlight, and then once you go back onto the stage and try to stand onto the spotlight, and then it should not only brings us 1, but 2 more golden goop ghosts. So yeah, perfect coincidence able to actually stumble across into a whole bunch of those golden goop ghosts in that particular floor. So yeah, very generous way in regards to the forms of trying to find these little rare ghosts. So yeah, how's off for that part. And to make matters even much more better, hopefully though, if I can reach 79 or lower HP, then I should able to gather those 2 golden goops, or potentially destroy them just in time to potentially trying to gather even more gold. So how about that? Although it's a shame about the fact that we somehow missed one of them, but that's okay though, because it doesn't really matter of my perfect run skills or anything else like that in any some sort of capacity, but still. Anyway, so let's go ahead and bring up even more gold bars right up there. So by trying to once again try to separate not only Luigi but also Luigi as well. So yeah, I think that should be all good. Because, relatively speaking, that timer is super duper fast. So yeah, always have to make sure that's how separation comes in. So, and I believe for the most part, we have essentially done any other aspects almost in terms of floor 11. So again, not too shabby for the most part. It actually took me for about, I would say 40 or so minutes by this recording. So yeah, pretty substantial on my part. So anyways though, so let's go and quickly check what's beyond here. I don't think there's anything else we can able to interact with for the time being, aside from the fact I've noticed there's actually one of those achievements by, I would say, trying to able to actually get every single stuffed bunnies around here, which, yeah, again, I'll try to do that on my spare own time, so don't you guys worry about that. Especially considering for the fact that, well, usually when it comes to getting achievements, when it comes to doing my recording sessions, might take a bit of a long stretch of time in regards to the forms to try to go for a lot of grinding things. So, but either way, onwards to floor number 12, which still is incredible to believe that we actually breezily went for those floors quite fast, all things considered, except with floor 10 sometimes because of all the puzzle challenges we have to go through, but regardless of such though, only 3 buttons to go. So, yeah, on to floor number 12 then. So, and I suppose there's technically the final thing I want to point out in regards to the forms of, well, actually kind of think about it, the final 2 things before I like to mention about any of this, is that the new Toad, Jam, and L game is in the planning stages, at least as far as what I've heard about it, especially they trying to revive the actual series from the likes of the Sega Games Library or something like that. Well, this is going to be taking place in the forms of some sort of like a pirate motif, so yeah, I guess that makes it pretty obvious about the forms of what the actual anchor symbol was for if we somehow arrive at the 12th floor. So, anyway, so, with that being said, there's nothing else we can do around here because there is that one specific aspect you might want to point out, and that's what it appears to be, for the fact that, well, obviously though we can't go in here, but, as you can see, we actually come across into ourselves a familiar plug socket right there, but that's going to be until for later, because as you can definitely tell, there's that ginormous ship is actually blocking a door, which, yeah, believe it or not, if we take a look for that particular hole over there, there's a door behind it. So, yeah, we can't enter this particular floor for the time being, because we do need some sort of a modification when it comes to Poltergeist G-00. So, for instance, though, we got ourselves a call from Professor Egad, and this means we need to head back into this lab, because something is about to happen. So because of this, though, yeah, because relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that, well, I don't think it's possible we can able to actually proceed onwards to, floor 13 or upwards for the time being, because, suffice to say, though, we need to have a chat with Professor Egad before we, do anything, by simply trying to walk on foot with the elevator lift, or, alternatively, though, you can able to use fast travel with the phones that particular lab fast travel by utilizing with Virtual Boo, so we can easily do just that. And also you do realize, every time whenever you go into the EGAD's lab, you do realize that Blue Toad was there, but for whatever reason, Red Toad is nowhere to be found. Oh, wait a second, he must have gone missing, so maybe for the fact that he's trying to fetch something for me that's most important, but something tells me for the fact that it may look like those little pesky ghosts are up to no good again, so at the very least though, for the fact that EGAD is trying to tell us for the fact that we got some footage has been recorded somewhere in one of the floors in particular, so yeah, I wonder what the footage is going to be taking place, I wonder. Well, I suppose we'll have to find out right now, actually, until we've realized how come that particular Toad was missing. So, yeah, at one point we rescued Toad, but now we've gone back to just one Toad. So, yeah, I wonder what the fuss is all about then, huh? This particular room looks a bit familiar. I'm guessing something tells me it's going to be taking place in, I would say, basement 2, specifically. Yeah, I can definitely tell it's going to be in Boiler Works, because I can see those, like, water, and not only that, it's pretty interesting how they're going for a first-person perspective with that particular viewing. And there goes the camera, so thanks to the phones, that particular stack of crates did somehow manage to deliberately, or in some cases though, smash the actual camera. So that's the footage we've got, so I'm pretty sure enough though we need to head our way back to Basement 2 to potentially try to find not only this nifty contraption, but on top of that, we need to rescue Toad again. So, because the last time we actually did rescue the red Toad was back in floor 4, so as a result, yeah, this might be felt a bit familiar to you, which even then... Now, I'm generally surprised about the fact that unlike the second game, that we have to rescue for about 5 different colored Toads, usually between red, blue, yellow, and green and purple, but now we've gone back onto 3 Toads to rescue. So that's what I can really think about this for the sake of the functional comparison between this and the second game when it comes to escorting Toads, basically. So, because usually for what I can gather, that we have to go for about 4 Toad escorts missions. So, anyway. So yeah, we can't proceed into floor 12 for the time being, so let's head all the way back to Boiler Works in Basement 2 for able to try and find not only Toad again, but also try and find the special contraption as what EGAD did somehow point out earlier. So, but yeah, I think that's as far as I can say about the forms of today's discussion at this point. So with that being said, folks, is that we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Luigi's Mansion 3. Is that we're about to be heading back into Basement 2 in Boiler Works to find not only Toad again, but in addition to finding this very peculiar contraption for the Poltergeist. So I'll see you guys and join at some point. Until tomorrow. Later, fellas.